Across our community, stories are being lived. Stories of resilience, sacrifice, and purpose. But in healthcare, too many of our voices have gone unheard. This documentary was born from a vision to uplift the journeys of BIPOC health providers and future healers, not just to celebrate them, but to show what's possible. We spoke with professionals who look like us, who carry our cultures, languages, and histories, and who are working every day to heal the same communities that raised them. We also listened to the people they serve, the very own members of our community, because their experiences remind us why equity in healthcare is not just important, it's urgent. Our goal is simple: to inspire a new generation of Black, Indigenous, and youth of color to see themselves in medicine, in healing, and in power. Not someday, but now. Whether you're a student dreaming of becoming a nurse or doctor, or someone who has felt overlooked in a clinic, this is for you. We hope this journey reminds you that you belong in every room, every role, and that changing this system starts with you.
I see myself going to college or university in like pre-med or nursing, and then finding my way to get my higher degrees for medicine. And in the process, I do hair, so I want to continue doing that as a side hustle while continuing to further my education for my passion for the medical field. For me, navigating pre-health, I started just by looking up like different career choices like radiology, ultrasound tech, NICU nurse, and just to dive deeper into see like the field that I will be going to for my AP African American Studies final project. I did my presentation on like health disparities and the historical injustices and how that affects our Black communities today. If we eventually want to go to like the medical field and just be more active in it, we need to have representation, and we need to see that there's people like us working in the field so it can make us more comfortable, and just knowing that this is not going to be like a really difficult field to get into based on your skin color. I don't feel like they talk about medical stuff really throughout school, and I wish that could be more emphasized just to create a wide variety. My current doctor right now, I don't feel like he understands me. He really just brushes it off and just gives medicine. But I don't want medicine. I want to know what's wrong, how to fix it. Like, he's really quick and fast. He's like, yes, I understand, like, you're busy and stuff, but I'm here right now in this moment. Just take time to hear what I have to say. The impact I hope to make in the medical field is really make people feel heard. I want to help them feel okay and know that the hospital is a safe place. It's not negative as the history has shown, but it can be like a more safe and a more sensitive place that you can come and get the help you need and be treated.
I feel like we are advocating day by day, and we see these little changes. And we see spaces, we see community-based organizations, we see advocates, we see people who are at the clinics also trying to change the culture within their healthcare system. So we have allies everywhere now. We have a network, and I feel like coming together can definitely help us bring the change that we dream for. My name is Mohammed Akmouche. I came as a refugee from Iraq through a program that serves Iraqis who served the US mission in Iraq. And it was a lengthy process to be able to come here with my family. I feel like there is always a call and a need for us to advocate for ourselves. In our culture, being respected and being valued is sometimes more important than being provided with the service that you are asking for. It's more of a culture of relational rather than transactional, which is what we see on a daily basis in our healthcare system. At the clinics, people are dealt with as patients, as a case, rather than a person whom you need to connect with, you need to have a relationship with. Health is an essential part of our human beings. And when we seek health, we tend to open up when we feel safe, when we feel heard, and when we feel valued. If these are not realized, you are not really connected to the space and to the provider, and you distance yourself from that space. You go there only when you are in severe needs for healthcare. As we know, health is not only the clinical aspect, it's all the social aspects, all the social determinants of the experiences that we live in. So if I am stressed about my job, stressed about my housing situation, there are multiple needs that I have, and the doctor is not listening to me, and they don't realize that I need this, and that. There's a gap in that situation, and that gap results in disparities, results in inequities, and result in distances rather than bridges. If we want to improve healthcare system, we need to position providers as learners also, because in most situations they tend to teach and provide advices and guide people rather than listening to them, learning about them, and understanding where they come from.
Making mental health not a bad thing. Mental health is not a bad thing, right? Because when we get cancer, we go to the doctor. We get high blood pressure, we go to the doctor. So if, for whatever reason, your emotional state is not where it needs to be, you could go see a mental health counselor to get it improved. I think I've always been healthy physically. I play a lot of sports. I was in the military. I'm very active on the outdoors. Emotionally, growing up in an abusive home, it was a little bit more challenging, right? So I had anger issues, I have rage issues, I had, attitude, right? That, when you get abused, then the world tends to be a little bit hostile, so I was hostile right back. Went to counseling, met this fabulous counselor / mentor, and man, my life just changed. He taught me how to be more, I use the term emotionally fit. Just like when we go to the gym, right? We train for our health, physical health. I think a lot of times we don't practice enough emotional health. I do a lot of workshops, I do a lot of presentations, I'm involved in my church, I'm involved in my community. Right now I run a men's group for men of color. It's called Men Uplift. I do it with another facilitator. And every other week we go to a gym, we get a workout, and then we eat and we sit down and we talk about life. And this is so unusual, right? Men of color sitting down talking about feelings. Oh my God, where the word coming to, right? Or emotions, right? We all have them. I think a lot of time it's just we've been taught, at least I was taught as a Latino man you don't cry. You don't show your emotions, okay? And you gotta be stoic and serious all the time, which I happen to be, not by choice, but that's how I grew up. I grew up on the streets of New York. You had to keep a certain demeanor to stay alive. So that's what I've been doing. The other thing is educating myself. I have a master's degree. I also have multiple certifications. So I'm a licensed mental health counselor. I do drug and alcohol counseling. I do problem gambling and gaming counseling and domestic violence. So when somebody comes into my office, it's like, you don't have to go anywhere. I'm not gonna refer you anywhere. Let's deal with whatever it is. And if I can't do it, I will refer. But if I can do it, let's get it done. I don't care if you don't have money or if you don't have insurance, it's okay. bake me a cake. I don't care, you know what I'm saying? Bring me some lumpias, I mean, bring me some tacos, something, I don't care. Because in our countries, that's how we did it. That's how we do it, we barter, right? In Puerto Rico, you barter with fruit or with pigs or chickens or whatever. And over here, everything's money. You go anywhere, and the first thing they ask you, can we see your insurance card? I just went to a doctor today. That was our first question. Where's your insurance card? I'm like, okay, you want to know my name before? But that's how it is here in the US, right? So I think a lot of time we have to stop trying to be Americans and be okay being who we are. Me as a Latino man is like, no, I'm Latino first. Right? So part of it is just understanding that we come from rich cultures that sometimes, again, we come here and we ignore it. I don't. I think all BIPOC youth are experiencing those things. Identity crisis, trauma, discrimination, racism. I mean, because the dominant culture a lot of times don't understand. When you watch TV, they make it sound like we the only immigrants coming here illegally. We are not. Right? But all you see is Latinos and Hispanics at the border. Other people get here in containers, other people swim here, other people do all kinds of stuff to be here. My thing is, how come we the ones singled out, right? That's traumatic, that's embarrassing, right? So part of it is understanding your worth, understanding your value. I think that a lot of time the youth get caught up into like not knowing that. So for me, my job is to let them know, no, you're worth it, you're valuable. It's all up to you. Don't allow people to do that for you. So I think that in my message, working with people, both youth and adults, is about that. It's like, don't let anybody dictate who you are. You tell them who you are.
Hi, I'm Sadika, and I am a current junior at the UW. I go to UW Seattle, and I'm studying public health. In terms of seeking healthcare, I'd say that it pretty well. I've been able to reach the doctors that I needed to reach, and I've been able to get the medical attention that I need. As I grow older, however, I do realize the importance in having a good job and having benefits and having insurance right online. Having worked in the medical field, we've had to turn away a lot of people that come in because they simply can't afford a $300 exam, right? They would rather choose to at least eat or have a roof over their heads, and that has definitely given me a different perspective on how grateful I am to be able to receive that medical attention, whereas some people can't. Yes. I was born in Nepal, and so there I saw a lot of different healthcare views in which there was a long wait time for medications to even be received. Your test results would come back in months. It wouldn't take a couple weeks as in here. And so it made me realize that with the power that I do have to fix things, that there are some things that I can change. And so I don't expect to come into the healthcare field thinking that I will be the next CEO of this hospital and I'll change every single rule. However, I will do what's in my power to prescribe medication, to treat people, to really listen to what they have to say, and realize that because we are all so different and we're built different, we have to look at it from a community level in which we see what are we influenced by, what are we doing on a daily basis, are we getting our daily activity in, and so I think just using that is something that I'll do. A change that I wish to see within the healthcare field is, I think, more accessibility. We always say that we're trying for better, but there's always areas that can be improved. And in terms of accessibility, there's a lot of factors as to why a person can't make it to the hospital that day. And I think we need to work towards improving just the general stigma that we have around hospitals. Not everyone is always out to get us. However, there are, financial issues. There's a lot of barriers within healthcare, and we really need to take a closer look at that. The future relies on the next generation, as many of them say. However, it's really hard to do that when you're out within the outskirts of things. You really need to make sure that you're advocating for yourself, that you're really present within the time, and that you meet all the expectations that you have for the world, right? And that can't just happen by looking, it has to be by doing. And so when you advocate and when you speak up for yourself and you see things that are unjust, I think that really creates a bigger change.
If you already know that you want to be in medicine and you're in high school, I would say make sure you're disciplined in terms of your schedule. Find a mentor. If you don't know anybody, talk to your teachers. Be like, okay, I'm interested in this field. Do you know anybody? Heck, talk to your doctor that you see for your primary care, right? That's what I did. I talked to my podiatrist. So tell your primary care, can I come and shadow you? Shadow their medical assistants. Shadow the whole office. Dedicate, even if it's like 2 hours a week to it. So back in Kenya, I grew up in a small town. So we had one hospital, and that hospital was near my school. So whenever I would leave school, I won't go home straight. I will go through the hospital and just hang out with the one provider that was there. I actually thought he was a doctor, but later I will find out he's a nurse. So by the time I was, 7, 8, 9, like I knew I just wanted to basically do what he was doing, and that's how my passion for medicine started. And I told my dad that I wanted to be like that guy. I want to work in the hospital, and he was like, you can do it. So I went full-time at Portland State University, and they had a group called LSUM. I think UW has it for high school students that are going to UW. They should definitely look into that. It's called Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation, and they help minorities in STEM field. I had support in terms of education, like making sure my grades were good, helping me get internships, and really it was a very good group to keep you on track. At some point, life was so hard that I felt like I couldn't do it because I was worried about, I didn't even have an address, which is crazy to think about it. I had a place to stay because I have like amazing people in my life, but I couldn't use their addresses because they were already getting help from the government. For whatever reason, I remember thinking I need to quit school, work full-time, just so that I can have an address that is my own. And when I spoke with the program director, she was like, quitting is not an option for you. And she gave me her address. So, oh my gosh, I'm gonna tear up thinking about this. Because when you reflect back, you're like, I went through all that, right? It's all part of the journey, right? It's all part of the process. You go through the ups and the downs. And honestly, I tell people, I really want everybody to have a low moment in their life because that's what's gonna keep them strong for the rest of their life.
In what ways do you believe representation of BIPOC individuals in healthcare can influence community health outcomes?
The funny thing is, I saw one of your patients yesterday.
Mine, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And she lit up. She was like, I have never seen a woman of color in medicine. Honestly, sometimes people heal from just seeing somebody that looks like them. We know, right, stress makes your pain worse, right? It's like a cycle. Pain gives you stress. Stress makes your pain worse. So by seeing somebody that looks like you in healthcare, they don't even need to speak with you. You already have that trust. You're like, this person looks like me, I trust them, right? If the person that doesn't look like you have to introduce yourself. You have to tell them your background, your history, and sometimes it's painful to relieve those memories for them. So representation really for our patients and community in particular, I think it really bridges that gap in healthcare. The food that you eat, the environment that you're in, the stress that you go through on a daily basis, these are all things that affect somebody's health. So by having somebody that already understands that caters to you, right? We do patient-centered, right? Everything we do is around that patient. So my care is very individualized. Like the way I speak with somebody that has been through the things that I went through is not the same as the way I would speak with a 65-year-old Bowen CEO. In 5 to 10 years, I really hope we see more people of color or more underserved population in the healthcare so that the high schoolers are not so unmotivated to go into the fields thinking this is not for me, this is for this type of people. Having somebody that looks like you in higher positions, first of all, for the younger generation, it gives them that motivation to keep going because they can be like, I want to be like that person, right? And for the community, you can take what you have and bring it back to the community. You can individualize it for them, and you can give them the same opportunity. For us being in healthcare, we're focused on health. Give them the same chance at having a healthy, long life. Essentially, you're providing them access to health, to wealth, not in the sense of like money, but like just good, peaceful life where they feel like I can do these things and I have a chance for a better life.
I'm Alan Chen. I'm a physical medicine and rehabilitation physician with a fellowship training in interventional pain management. And I work at Puget Sound Pain Clinic, and I treat patients with chronic pain. So I was born in Massachusetts, but when I was 5, I moved to Hong Kong, and I basically grew up in the British school system until I was about 15 or 16, and then I moved back to the US. So I actually always wanted to be a doctor ever since I was like maybe 7 years old. And I was inspired actually just by seeing my pediatrician, and I just was inspired by how comforting that doctor was, and I was very interested in science. But I kind of got distracted when I went to undergraduate, and my older brother, who also went into medicine, he said, you better have a backup plan in case you don't get into medicine. And so my major was chemical engineering, because you can major in anything as long as you're pre-med. And so I actually worked as a chemical engineer for a year, and then I hated it, and I realized I didn't like the corporate world. I didn't feel the reward of working and helping someone one-on-one, and that's when I knew I have to go back to that childhood dream of being a doctor, and then I just pursued it ever since. I think that if you like to help people and you feel that reward of working with someone one-on-one, it's a great field. You're not going to be out of a job. I don't think AI is going to replace you. It's a very social type of job, so you're always interacting with people. So if you don't like people, it might not be the right fit, but if you like and enjoy being with people, you like treating and helping people, it's very rewarding.
Being the daughter of immigrant parents, both my parents moved here from Nigeria, and my sisters and I were the first ones to be born here in America. So with our culture, we were always taught to be very assertive and state what we want, and that was in any space we entered. And it also helped that my mom was a nurse for a while before she became a director of nurses. So she always made sure that we got the care we needed. I would say that there was a pivotal moment where it started to change. However, I had to snap back and go back to my teachings and my learning, and to learn how to advocate for myself in the room and be relentless with it, because sometimes, like I came across, I just wasn't listened to. I remember during COVID, so I'm a single mom now of 2 kids, but at the time I just had my daughter, and she had just been diagnosed with ADHD. It was during COVID, we were in the house, she was doing schooling there, I was working from home, and I was feeling very stressed and worn out, burnt out. I was having a lot of issues, so I went into a facility that I was with at the time, and seeking help and support, and I told them what was going on, and it seemed like they disregarded everything that was actually taking place, like the changes that were happening in my life, and they just went to a solution that I feel was a typical, like something they would say typical, and it seemed kind of like as though I was being stereotyped. So I found myself trying to explain who I was, and what I do and what I've been doing and the issues I was facing and how they came up. And it just didn't seem like it was clicking to them. So at that point, I really did feel like I was not being seen, not being heard, and I was being overlooked and not taken care of. Healthcare providers need to understand that not everybody is the same. we all may have similar experiences. We all may come from similar or the same communities, but everybody's body is different. The way people's perspective, how they think, they're all different. And when you group people together, it's like you're marginalizing and prescribing one pill for a million different diseases, you know? So the best way to help is to actually listen, and not just with your ears and ready to prescribe, but listen with your heart as well. I think it's not just hard work, it's heart work. Anything in the healthcare profession, it's hard work as well, because you have to be able to have some type of care for the people that you're serving. And in order to care for them, you have to know them and know where they're coming from and what it is they're dealing with. What gives me hope is the fact that there are resources, the fact that there are programs that are bringing awareness to the issues that we're facing, and not just bringing awareness, but trying to find solutions. The fact that there's even a possibility to have the community council, who our main mission is to go forth and push the fact that, look, there's problems with accessing healthcare, there's problems with the type of healthcare treatment that's being received for BIPOC communities, for underserved communities. And then there's people that are listening. And then the youth that we work with, that we're bringing up all of these different professions in healthcare, things that they never knew of. Like I love it. It gives me so much hope when you see a light bulb go off and they're like, oh, that's in the healthcare, oh, I didn't know, because everyone hears doctors, they hear nurses, even phlebotomists, but they don't know when they're able to learn something new and it sparks an interest, and then you look at them and they look at you and it's like, I see you, you see me, this is what you want to do. It gives me hope that there's going to be more equity, not just outside with what's given out, but inside, you know, with the work that's being put in and who's putting in the work for the community.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Kim. I'm an anesthesiologist, a board certified anesthesiologist, and subspecialty board in pain medicine. I was born in South Korea and small villages. My childhood was different than most of American children's, because it was a very underdeveloped country at that time. And most of the countryside, I would say about more than half of students unable to bring the lunch or pack the lunch because of no food. And we actually get a lot of American help that time with the corn powders that donated by UNESCO and things like that. So eventually I had a opportunity to come to the United States. When our family first immigrated, we actually went to South Texas along the Mexican border. It's a Rio Grande Valley. I don't know anybody know about that. It's a Rio Grande Valley. It's called McAllen, Texas, which is that actually further probably delay my English as well, because 90% of the populations are Hispanic. So high school, colleges, and when I went to medical school, I said, wow, I'm really behind English. Obviously we are very poor immigrants. We live in housing project. And I was working 3 different jobs and go to college. I have to go back to high school because English problems. I went to 2.5 years American public high school, and then I went to go on to state high school and followed by medical school. So it was a long road for me, but I think it's considering lifespans nowadays are 80, 90 years old. I think that's a small sacrifice of my youth to be a physician. Is it worth it? I feel like I probably lived 100 years of advancement of technologies, from no electricity, no light, to now to computer ages, artificial intelligence now. So I think I have a lot more broad experience of my life than most Americans, like in my age group. I think medicine it's very rewarding for personal achievement-wise, and I think it's taking care of these highly needed and demanded patients, and then helping them best you can as a healthcare professional to change their course of their life and thinking process. I think it's a very rewarding. Yet, I mean, there's a lot of challenges, and I think financial stability is a secondary gain, and I would not recommend it to go to medical school because of financial stability, although it is a financial stability. But you really have to like the patient and helping these people, and I think it's another thing is that you have to be a persevere. You can't just give up because it's too hard, or you can't give up because I don't want to. Sometimes you really have to persevere about what you want and what you like. If you like the science, if you like the helping people, I definitely recommend to the healthcare professions. You don't have to be go to medical school. There's a lot of other alternative to it, like a physician assistant, nursing, nurse practitioners, and etc. So they are all good healthcare career that you can help people.
When you have diverse thoughts, experiences, voices around the table, it only helps. It does not harm. You know, I always say, like, I'm from Louisiana, so we do gumbo, right? And we always talk about this United States as being a melting pot. That's actually a fallacy. We don't want to be a melting pot. Melting pot means everything comes together and it blends in and it's like this tasteless slop, right? You want to make sure that you are valuing people for what the ingredients that they bring. So that's why I say a gumbo, right? So we have this roux, and then you put in chicken, you put in shrimp, you put in okra, all these things that still keep their own integrity, but they are part of this delicious whole. So that's why I think we should look at healthcare as this gumbo, as this salad, right? That nourishes folks, but allows the ingredients to shine and contribute to the whole. So I think that is kind of like a metaphor that can show how to blend spaces and create spaces where people are able to thrive and actually be a part of the organization that they actually contribute to and help thrive. So I'm Dathan Sturgis. I am a PA. I've been a PA for 16 years, originally from Haynesville, Louisiana, which is a small town in North Louisiana. I am the current interim program director and section head for the University of Washington's MEDEX Northwest PA program, and I practice in family medicine. Also, I'm a public health practitioner in health promotion, health education, with a focus really on stress and coping in underrepresented populations. Yeah, so I always tell people that words really matter, and so I grew up pretty poor and kind of educationally disadvantaged in a way because of just location, geographic location, and access. But I was always told that I was called the little doctor, the professor, and I'm all those things, right? I have a PhD, I am a professor, so I never thought that I could not. I only knew that I could. And one of the things is that my mom has been ill most of my life just for some secondary issues due to a house fire when she was a child. And so I was always with her, and you know, we love our mothers, and so I was in and out the clinic and hospital with her, and so I was always retaining that information so that I could take care of her. So it was something that I was just really born into and I always knew that I would do. But then I found out about the PA profession, and I, had a talk with myself, is it the work or is it the title, right? And it's the work for me, because I've been doing the work. And I was looking at it and I was like, this is also a way to get to generational wealth quicker. It's 2.5 years and I'm not gonna accrue a lot of debt, and I'll still be doing what I wanna do. And so that's kind of how I found my way into medicine and to the PA profession. Most of my background clinically has been in underinsured, uninsured, indigent populations. So I have worked, at county hospitals, state hospitals, and that is just my niche because, again, I want to fill that gap when it comes to access. So most of my patients needed lots of advocacy. And what I always tell my students too is that you may be a clinician, but you also are a patient advocate. And we don't see ourselves as that a lot of times, right? And so it's understanding how to work with team members, your clinical pharmacists, your social workers. How do you identify resources for your patients? How do you actually assess that when you're interviewing your patients? So looking at the social, political, and commercial determinants of health that may be barriers to care, and factoring that in to, okay, I'm telling you that you need to cut out carbs and I need you to watch your sugars. But if your patient is financially and food insecure and they rely on the food pantry or the shelter and they're getting hot dogs on white bread, you adjust your approach. If the patient cannot afford medications, making the adjustments of learning all the different programs, the Walmart program, Albertsons back in the day used to give free antibiotics. Publix, when I lived in Georgia, you could get hypertension drugs and diabetes drugs for free. Like knowing those sorts of things and kind of venturing outside of the clinic wall to know what the community you serve and the resources, that's the way to advocate. And I used to do that all the time.
In what ways do you believe representation for BIPOC individuals in healthcare can influence community health outcomes?
Yeah, so it's not what I think, it's what I know, and what is proven by research is that concordance is key. That means that shared experiences, you can understand the lived experience, the way people talk, the way people communicate, and different intergenerational and historical traumas that have led people to where they are today when they're sitting in front of you in the clinic is so important. And so when you have someone who shares a similar background and shares a similar understanding, that interaction is going to be very rich and meaningful, and the outcomes are going to follow, because then it inculcates trust. It inculcates shared decision making. Sometimes you ask kids, have you ever had a black teacher? And you can always remember like no, or yeah, I had one or two. That's very important. So representation matters, because if you see it, you can be it, right? When people look at our website, if they're trying to go to PA school, the first thing people look at is the faculty, the staff, the students. Do I see myself there? And if you don't see yourself there, that deters you from sometimes going after your dream. And like Langston Hughes says, what becomes of a dream deferred, right? So I think representation is key. And it's not, again, like saying what I think, is look at the public health literature, look at the outcomes literature. It shows this. So it's not something we're making up. So the changes I would like to see really are at the organizational and institutional level too. So a lot of times I think that in order to recruit a good cadre of people from underrepresented backgrounds, you still have to look at historical things. For example, generational wealth. So, to get this degree or to even have the privilege to practice medicine, it costs, right? And so most people who don't come from generational wealth accrue a lot of debts. So it's honestly looking at what are the programs that can help defray costs. Are there loan forgiveness programs that you can invest in and match as an organization? Also looking at belonging and inclusivity. Is very important. Creating spaces that are not just safe, because spaces aren't safe for everyone, but brave spaces where people can show up authentically, have a voice, pick the music they're going to dance to, not just dance to the music that's playing. Again, when I talk about success, yes, I would love for you to be a PA, but success, I want you to be successful for what that looks like and means to you. But when you get there, I don't want you to be a crab in a bucket. I want you to be someone who is reaching back, someone who's multiplying your hands, someone who's sending the elevator back down for the next generation to come up after you. In order to, again, going back to that mantra of multiplying your hands, to make sure there are many of you out there that's doing the good work. And as John Lewis said, doing the good trouble too. My plea is that we need you, we see you, we want you represented, and I'm going to see you at the top.
voices you heard today reflect more than individual stories. They reveal a collective truth. Representation saves lives. When our communities are seen, heard, and cared for by the people who understand us, trust grows, healing deepens, possibilities expand. But the work isn't over. We need more BIPOC youth to step forward into scrubs, into white coats, into leadership, and reshape this system from the inside out. If you're watching this and wondering if you're good enough, smart enough, or strong enough to make it in healthcare, know that you are and you're not alone. Let this be your sign to keep going, to reach out, to ask questions, and to dream boldly, because you deserve to take up space and the future of health equity depends on it. Thank you for listening, and thank you to every voice that continues to fight for a healthier, more just tomorrow. Thank you.